the system.
Uh-huh.
So that's why.
Just because Kyle's farm's green doesn't mean everything he touches is green.
Oh, he sounds interested in this one.
And this one has been taking a long time, and part of it is we have to go through the state approval for them to approve the supplemental environmental project in lieu of the funds. And because it's of a certain, if it's anything over, I think $60,000, the executive director has to approve. So we're having to go through, you know, kind of their internal approval process. And the kicker is in order to get it approved, we can't start the project until they've approved it, or they don't consider it to be eligible for that. So we wanted to be, you know, get on board and start doing this stuff last year before, because we really wanted to get ahead of the game and instead of being behind the 8 ball, but we couldn't if we wanted it to be approved for this purpose. So we're kind of trying to balance all of those different regulations through the state and through all of the approval processes. And we've been planning on doing it for a really long time and, you know, getting everything kind of lined up, but we just can't pull the trigger until we have that final approval. So,
and is there an estimated date of arrival?
I think, are we anticipating approval from them in the by the end of the year, do you think? Or
you know, I think it's going to be next year sometime, because they've been completely,
the lottery.
We have our application in, and we had to work with Olson Engineering to get all the specs put together for our application. And I've checked back with them several times. I did finally get a response, I think it was last week, in which they said it's under review. They have no reason to believe it wouldn't be approved, but it's got to work through the process. They wouldn't give me a timeline. So it doesn't feel like it's on the verge of approval, but I do think in the next few months, and I think it might get into next year before they actually approve it.
So at least by the time we can issue construction for the season, hopefully, would be ideal. I mean,
but they're definitely moving faster than Fish and Wildlife.
Oh God!
Definitely.
Jeez, that's swimming upstream.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I want to clarify, the hydraulic model was Stephen's recommendation. I just remember listening to it and how important it was. I didn't want to take credit for something.
Kyle is the advocate.
And then you also wanted a brief update on the telemetry or SCADA?
Yes.
So what we have in terms of our system, our current system, is a system that is got a lot of little quirks in it, and it's not functioning to our expectations and in a normal fashion like these systems are supposed to. And we think that's mainly due to the programming that was completed by the subcontractor. And so we now have a new subcontractor who supports the district in electrical installations and programming, and they specialize in telemetry and that type of thing. And so what we're seeing is that for them to make repairs on our programming, it will exceed the cost of having them completely reprogram it in not that much time. I'm thinking 2 years, and we would, because the system is failing. The software programming is failing on a regular basis, and so to have them come down is very expensive. And so I think that what I've recommended is that we go ahead and just have all of the programming rewritten by them, since they will be our long-term support. They will also have 2 software packages that are included in that cost, and a remote access, so that they will be able to observe the system and potentially work on it from Golden or Morrison in their office. So that's what that is.
Thanks.
And I think
now
that
I'm remembering.
at the end of the day, we will end up saving money.
Right.
So.
You mean saving money relative to
them coming down,
yes,
and addressing each deficiency or failure one at a time.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we also save money by having a system that's operational that catches things, where we can monitor things.
You'll have a lot better monitoring.
That's great. Yeah,
that's the longer term.
That's a really key point, because we were looking at having them complete that component, which is the alarms, So right now, we don't have a system that actually notifies the operators at night or during the day or at any time other than right at the PC station where we see the screen. And so that really doesn't help you at night if there's a failure. And so that was going to have a significant cost. Those alarms will be included in that reprogramming.
Yeah.
So
This is correcting a design and construction deficiency in the capital projects. That all of these things that we're doing now should have been done in the capital projects previously. The contractor, the general contractor that hired that work done, we deducted quite a bit of money from their contract for these things not having been done, and now we're having to correct the deficiency that happened before. Period.
Nobody went aware of until we started to run the system.
So as of now, if something does happen in the middle of the night, you won't know.
that's correct.
So how long, hey, I think this is more important than I thought it was. And look, we didn't have to choose one or the other.
Talking about priorities.
We didn't have to choose one or the other.
This is something we wanted to have done 2 years ago.
How long will it take?
Actually, we have two telemetry PCs, and so when Dave was down here last time, he's the technician from Timberline. He noticed that we had two of these PCs, so he took one of them with him, and he can do, once we authorize the work, he can do the vast majority of the programming at their office, and then come down and do the rest on site, and it will take him about 3 weeks on site.
Better than 2 years.
No, I think we should start with hydraulics myself.
But it won't start till January or.
Well, we'll start when you authorize the project.
We got more than packet
It's
today, I believe.
Okay, gotcha.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks for your question.
Yes.
Yeah, is there any other?
Yeah, I have a question about the electrical consumption. First, going into this other category, what was the rate increase per kilowatt as a percentage? Or do you have an understanding of how much?
It was a demand charge that really kicked up the overall cost.
Demand charge
So when we upgraded the pedestal, the electrical pedestal and service for the well 18, and that was per the design, the engineer design documents. It put us into a new bracket where there was a demand charge. That's the highest amount of kilowatts used in 15 minutes each month. Right now it's about $600 per month just for that demand charge.
Because the motor is bigger or the pump is bigger?
No, it's just a matter of providing more service to the district and having that available to us.
As opposed to what was...
Well, what we had in the past was there was no demand charge on the previous pedestal.
Can I just offer a couple of details on the electrical side? Parvin probably already knows this as well, but you know, when you increase your overall demand, your maximum requirement, they have to increase their service, and they charge a premium for that. So we had to do that. Also, when, and I'm not sure how SLV operates, but typically, like with Xcel Energy, if you have a certain surge or spike in your usage, they'll monitor that high point and they'll set your demand charge based on that. So Stephen's working on operational strategies to reduce those spikes. So that is, you know, working on ways to start up the motor so that you don't have a big bump in your electrical service.
What it is, Michael, is that if you have a normal usage that's, let's say, 100 kilowatts, but at certain times you need 120 kilowatts, then the utility company has to put in a transformer to handle that additional, even though they're not getting revenue on it on a regular basis. So if you just
that's the basis of that charge.
That's the basis of that charge.
So, I mean, the question, I haven't actually, it's interesting for me too. So why is there more charge now than there was before? Why is there more demand now?
Well, that was based on the engineer's design of the facility. What we had before was a little 13 by 14 shed with a pump down the well, and that was it. Now we have a facility that has a huge electrical room. It pushes 2 booster pumps, 2 chemical dosing pumps, and 2 wells. And so what we have is substantially more than what we did have in terms of electrical demand.
Okay, that's what I want to
Well,
get.
what we need to do is to, if that's filling the tank from well 18 is with this new control system, we can fill during off-peak hours and not fill, not run the pumps to get the maximum at one time. Is just use that programming method to not have that peak, and then get the power company to take that charge off.
Can we do that?
I think we could look into it.
I think it's probably possible. I'm not intimately involved with the operation, but I think that some of those things can be scheduled to not be happening at the same time. Because that's the peak, you're jumping over, and you can work it out to avoid that, then you can probably get that charge reduced.
That's the
just
beauty of
something
having
to work at.
telemetry can, help.
Telemetry, you can say, okay, schedule these things at different periods so that you avoid the peak.
So that could be another cost savings.
Yeah.
If that would help out.
Yeah.
Yes.
So one other question, as far as the day-to-day operational expenses, not all the loans and everything, what percentage of the cost is the electricity? Considering the salaries and all this, is that 1%, 2% of our daily costs?
109,000 for electric, 120,000 for power.
That sounds about. Lindsay, can you help us out with that? Of the overall, on the enterprise fund, what percentage of overall expense is the utilities?
It's about 15.
Yeah. That's a good question.
Like about 30.
Okay.
Yeah. That's significant.
So she's supposed to be enterprise. It is.
Any other questions?
None.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, that was wrong, AJ. Sorry, I used the wrong number.
Okay.
Let's have 15%.
14.
Okay.
Good job.
Less than,
Just saved us a lot of money. Lottery numbers later.
No, that might have been logic.
yeah, that's more realistic, actually.
Don, did you have anything? Okay. All right.
Have you finished mine?
Proceed
Okay.
on.
Yeah, so with that, we can close. Would you like to go ahead and close the public hearing?
At this time, we're going to close the public hearing, and are we going to vote on the proposed budget?
We can. We've got an amendment and a budget. We can do them both with one motion. What I just want to clarify that the proposed 2013 budget does include that increase in revenue with an anticipated increase in water rates of $1 per EQR,
So that's
and a
$2 per month.
a $10 increase per year in AOX. So those are the anticipated revenue numbers included in the budget.
$1 water, $1 sewage.
You guys were both talking at the same
Sorry.
time.
No, I can't.
And like when, that you
I know,
you
I
each went in
understand
one
that.
ear and.
I haven't trained AJ to be quiet when I talk.
Nobody has.
Okay, so we.
So essentially, $24 a year, a $24 a year increase.
Per single family.
Yeah.
And I know you're about to do that. I just wondered, and there's not a lot of the public here, but how do you guys feel about the rate
You
increase?
had the chance, it was closed.
Fine. I feel fine.
$24 a year overall? That's not bad.
34 overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, 24, it's not, you don't have AOS.
Yeah.
It's 24.
Yeah, no,
That's,
aye.
Aye, good.
I'll just include those comments in the public hearing section.
Well, I've been following this for a number of years, and I think that's within the scope of everything that the district is faced with. I think that's pretty recent.
yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks for asking me about.
so who would like to make that motion?
I make that motion.
Well,
I'm gonna say-
what is that motion?
This motion?
Let's be clear about what the motion
The
is.
motion
Guys, please, just wait a minute.
The motions are, it's set forth on the agenda, and we're approving two items at once. One is the
Okay, that's
2012
what I want. Yeah.
amendment, and then the 2013 budget, and we're appropriating sums of money. We're approving our mill levy.
And the reading.
So the mill levy is a part of, so we're approving 3 resolutions.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, you're doing 4 resolutions. You're doing one for the budget amendment.
Yes.
You're doing one to adopt the 2013 budget.